So let's go back to our diatonic chord progression here now, and let's just redraw it, and then we're going to add the 7th and see how everything shakes out. So here's my 1 chord, right? Here's my 2 chord. Here's my 3 chord. Here's my 4 chord. 5 chord. Let's put it right there. 6 chord. My 7th chord, the weird one. And then we're back to our 1 chord. Okay, let me just stretch all of these out. Okay, let's zoom out just a hair so we can see that better. Okay, so here's our diatonic chord progression again with thirds, right? So now we remember our pattern, right? This is going to be a major chord, minor chord, minor chord, major, major, minor, diminished, and then we're back to the 1 chord from major. So let's see how that changes when we add our 7th. Now, whether or not the chord is major or minor is not going to change, because remember, that's all in the third. And we're not changing the third. We're adding a note. So if we go up and add another note, let me just go through and do it here. So this is going to be our 7th tone of each chord. Okay, so this first one has that nice soothing kind of sound to it, not the way I just played it there. It sounded clunky, but so this is a major 7th chord. Let me zoom out just a hair more here so I can get this all on the screen. That should work. So this is a major 7th chord. So I can tell because it's a major chord with a major 7. Now to tell the quality of the 7, there's 2 ways I can do it. One is I can look at its distance from the 5th. And that, in this case, is a major 3rd because it has 5 half steps in it. So that's going to be a major 7th chord. Another way, and a slightly more accurate way, would be to look at its distance from the root. So from here to here is a major 7th, and there's a quick way to tell if you're on a major 7th in that amount of distance, and that is to look at its distance from the next root up, right? So we know it's a major 7th if we're a half step away from the root, again an octave higher, right? So this is a quick way to tell if we're a major 7. So let's look at the next one. So this is our 2 chord. So this is minor, but what is our 7th? Well, here's the root, D. The next D is here, and it's a whole step away. So that means this is a minor 7th. We can also check the distance between the 5th and the 7th to tell us that's a minor 7th chord. Let's look at the next one. E, G, B, that's our minor 3 triad with a 7th on it. This one is a minor 3rd away from the 5th, and our root, an octave higher, would be right there, which there's a whole step there, so that means it must be a minor 7th chord as well. Moving on, our F is a major chord. Because of our diatonic chord progression, we know that that's major. Our 7th is from here to here, a major 3rd, and our root of an F would be an octave higher right there, and that's only a half step away, so we know that this must be a major 7th. Another one of the really pretty ones. Now the 5th, the 5 chord is where we get that weird dominant situation, where we have a major triad, but a minor 7th. That's just what is naturally occurring, and we call that a dominant chord, or just a shorthand is a 7th chord. When we talk about a 7th chord, the kind of common lingo we use is if it's a major 7th chord, we write this MAJ7. If it's a minor 7th chord, we write this lowercase m and then a 7. If it's a dominant chord like this, we just write the letter or the number 7 after the chord name. So in this case, we would write G7, meaning that it's a G major triad with a minor seventh on it. Okay, so that's the one exception. That's the one place in the scale that that's going to show up. Let's move on. Our sixth chord is a minor chord, and it has a minor seventh on it. The root would be here if we took it up an octave. Our B chord, this is our diminished chord, right? So this is a minor, actually this is a major triad. So this one is just all kinds of weird. So let's just continue to call this diminished, but we'll call it a diminished 7 in this case. Because what we have is a minor triad with that major third. But it's a major third here, but it's a minor third here, right? So that's just all kinds of weird and goofy. And it sounds ugly, so we don't often use it in popular music or electronic music, or really very much. We tend to avoid this like the plague. It's just not very useful for us. So file that one away for now. We're still going to call it a diminished chord. Let's call it a diminished 7th chord. Let's hear it. I'm going to get rid of all our 7ths. Okay, let's get rid of those and hear it, and then we'll play it a second time, and I'll put the 7ths back in. So here it is without the 7ths. And here it is with the 7ths. Okay, so you can hear, hopefully, that the chord quality is unaffected. It's still a major or a minor chord. Adding the 7th just gives it a little more color, right? It's a little more colorful. It sounds a little bit more jazz-like to me. Chords that use a lot of 7ths, or music that uses a lot of 7th chords, tends to have a more jazz flavor to it. So if you want that kind of sound, add a bunch of 7th chords to your harmony. If you don't want that kind of sound, don't. Now there is a special reason why we might use this dominant chord. So I want to put that into a little bit of context and focus on that quickly. So let's do that in the next video.